Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Paul Levine Show. I'm Greg Dixon, Paul Levine, Fred Sams, and Betty Withrow here. And we're going to continue our discussion today on cost segregation studies. And Paul, do you want to kick it off?
You betcha. As we discussed last week, cost segregation studies are a great way to defer, don't say save, to defer income taxes for a very long time. And what you get in effect is an interest-free loan from Uncle Sam. Last week, we talked about the technical parts of it. And today, mainly Fred, and I are going to discuss some case studies for you. And you will see how it really ends up working. Fred, you're on.
You know, I guess here's where me and my partner sort of have our way with things. I think there's a few different ways you say tomato. You can say tomato, you can say tomato, you can say potato, or you can say potato. To me, and many of the folks that I've worked with, when you are deferring, you are saving. Um, because the fact of the matter is, you're working with time value of money. Time value of money says $1 in your hand today is worth more than it is tomorrow. So I don't, in principle at all, challenge my partner's terminology, but I would say that for many, it has much the way that you would look at something. And so, kind of kicking that off, one of the first studies that came to mind was one that we had identified. Probably when I first started getting involved with cost seg studies, and that was doing dental offices. And so this is it's a very narrow niche, but not small by any sense, because think about all the dental offices that you have in your own neighborhood and in your own locale. And, in this case here, the depreciation schedule on a dental office is spread out across 39 and a half years. During that period of time, you can get what I would call slices of depreciation from it based off of the 39 and a half years. And cost segregation and accelerating depreciation are ways of making more of your or paying less of your tax savings in that regard. So let's take this one apart here. And the other thing I wanted to add here was that the IRS really recommends that those folks that perform competently cost segregation studies have architecture, engineering, construction competencies. And you got to ask yourself, is your CPA also an architect or an engineer? They may be quite knowledgeable, but chances are they're not. They don't have that same background, taking nothing away from all that they do know. So then let's think about how then does a cost segregation affect this dental practice? Well, let's say that conservatively, 30% of the dental build out could be brought down into a 5-year depreciation standpoint as a tangible property here. And that represented, let's say, $150,000 in build out. And that's not too uncommon, because to build out a dental office, there's quite a bit of money in the plumbing and all the other systems that go into each one of those dental rooms, if there are multiple dentists in one, or even if there's one. But in this case here for this study, we're using the example that $150,000 was the build out. And then and since that was 30%, let's take that 30% and multiply that by the 150,000. So then we're looking at about $45,000 then of real depreciation. Okay. And
Fred, if I can just interrupt for 1 second.
Please do.
When you have a dental office, you see the sink and you see very few pipes. But since the plumbing that gets to those things is very specific for them, even though you don't see it, you get to deduct as depreciation, as bonus depreciation or accelerated depreciation. You get to take that, and that's huge.
That's right. That's right. So then in this case here, that's a great point. So then in this case here, based off the fact that probably that dentist tax, I lost my thought here, that their income tax, their taxable income rate would be would be high. It'd be probably about a $16,000. Here's my word: income tax savings. I was about to say refund, and I can feel the professor and my partner about to come out and whack me one here.
Well,
So
if you amend a tax return that you already paid the income tax on, you're going to get a refund. You're also going to have to file Form 3115 for a change of accounting method. And that's a pain for 8 pages. But if you take all of that, you're going to get a very nice deduction. And Fred likes to call it savings. I was in a podcast with Fred this morning, and the people who were talking also said savings. I just look at it that when a person who is, quote, selling cost segregation studies to a potential client and he says tax savings, then that client will go to his CPA, somebody like me, and I will say, no, he said savings and it's only a deferral. But what I like to say is that it's a deferral, but then you make money on the value of the money, the present value of the money. But actually, you're going to pay the same tax. You're just going to pay it with dollars that are worth less.
that's right. Yeah, like I say, sometime that parade seems a little rained on, but that's the CPA of my partner, and that's a different reality. And but again, what's the idea here? A dollar in your hand's worth more than it is tomorrow. The fact that you can see a tremendous deferral in your taxes on the front end gives you the opportunity to take that deferral and the savings from it and utilize it in a lot of different ways. And most of the clients, if they are really putting their thinking cap on, they're applying that to their next investment. They're looking at how they could reduce possibly some debt that they had placed in some other areas. And so, and then the other side of it is as well too, you might choose to utilize that for whatever. Maybe that's taking your loved one off and really lavishing him or her. So
that's my normal line. But the one thing that you didn't mention is that the bank may give you a loan that they wouldn't have given you otherwise, because now you have a way to pay it back. And
that's exactly right. And what I would say to that is what we see working with the on the loan side of the house is we have a lot of DCR and DCSR loans, which are based off of debt service primarily. And so when you add in the value of accelerating your depreciation, that definitely makes you look a lot more worthy in terms of the lender's eyes, and be that the bank or your private investors, and we see that happening on both sides. Mm-hmm.
True.
So what and so again, that's an example of a dental office, and that can be applied whether that dentist is leasing the space or actually owns the building. In fact, they own the building, and there's other considerations to be taken in besides just the what we discussed here, that 150,000, which basically represented what you don't see inside that office when you go in and you sit down, and all the electronics and different stuff that is incorporated in a dental environment. So, any questions there that either one of us can address on that end, or maybe we could jump into another study.
Do you have any questions, Betty?
No, I'm just listening and learning. Yeah.
All right, let's go to study number 2.
Study number 2, this one is a little more meat and potatoes, and it's centered around residential property. This is when you just take a single family residence or condo, whatever it is, and you decide that you want to make that a rental, a long-term rental. You're going to move some tenants in, and they are going to pay the mortgage. And so, in a very basic type, and what we don't see much in California, at least in San Diego, is, let's say you had a purchase price of around $260,000 or $270,000 on a 2,300 or so square foot home. Thank you. The entire site might be placed on 11,000 square foot. We've taken into consideration the date you acquired the property and when the study was applied. And again, what's significant here with cost segregation studies is always going to be your effective tax rate, because after that depreciation is figured out in a number, then it's going to be multiplied by your tax rate. So the higher your tax rate, that means the more revenue that you're earning, the higher a tax rate number would be applied against your depreciation. Did I say that good, partner, there, or is there another way you want to wrap your hands around that?
No, you said that fine, but there's something that I wanted to bring up. On Facebook recently, there are CPAs who are advertising to use their service to prepare your tax return. And there is one advertisement that blows me away. And they say that if you come to them, that if you are a realtor, they can save you, and they use this number, $20,000 in income taxes. And that's absolutely absurd. You can't say that without seeing a person's situation, without seeing what they own and what their previous tax returns look like. And you've got to be more conservative than that. They are just boasting as to what they could do, but they can't necessarily do it. And so you've got to watch out for people who are advertising to get your business, but are advertising what I say is totally incorrect.
That's right. That's right. So, and to that same exact message there, I think what's important to realize is that we have studies prepared that are done very conservative. The whole idea is that when you have a proposal created on a property that's of interest, you get a fair idea of what the tax savings could possibly be, how well they could depreciate out the particular asset you have. In this case here, we're talking about a single family residence. So typically we're looking at a few 15-year components, special sprinkling. What comes to mind here on your exterior?
On the exterior, shrubs, trees.
Sure.
If you have a parking space and you have concrete and you have the blocks that stop the car and all sorts of things that I didn't know that could be depreciated, because to me that's part of the land, and land doesn't get depreciated. I was absolutely taken back when I saw the first couple of cost segregation studies on individual houses, on single family residences. You can save a lot of money. I said save. You can defer lots and lots of money in income taxes by doing a cost segregation study on a regular single family residence. And then think of those people that have luxury houses. I mean, we're talking 3, 4, maybe $5 million, and they rent out those properties here in Southern California. And I don't know that they know or that their realtors know about cost segregation study. I wrote articles a couple of weeks ago about the fact that it's not taught in the classrooms in continuing education. It's not given on the CPA exam. So nobody really cares about it. And that's why we come across so many accountants, so many realtors who don't know what a cost segregation study is, who don't realize what it can do for you, and who don't realize that you have to use it in order to maximize your earnings.
That's absolutely right. I'm a commercial broker, and I have a lot of brokers that I've worked with are selling and listing a very expensive real estate, and it's exactly for that point where their clients own several of these properties, and so this is a rental property for them, and this is where, as Paul was mentioning, when you start talking about those 15-year, I was using a very meat and potato type of property here. But when you talk about a multi-million-dollar property, then the landscaping, the bushes, the shrubs, the parking, it takes on a whole different light in terms of what the value is of that. So it's going to be, that 15-year is going to be valued based on the quality of the project. Is it a Class A home? Is it a Class B or C? And that speaks to, in terms of both the price and the luxuries and accommodations that are built into it as well.
Yeah, and there are so many luxury homes like that, and I've been in a number of them who are rented out, or which are rented out, and they just don't know how to save money. They don't know what the excuse me, what the tax benefits are. They don't know how to keep this. And this is what you want. You want this in your hand, and you want to have control of it, and you want it to give you the lifestyle that you think you deserve and that you should deserve. I'm putting this away.
Well, I know where this guy lives too, that kind of money. But and as well, it's important to note that what we tend to see typically on a study is on these $1 million properties, it's not uncommon to see $70,000-$80,000 per $1 million of the value of the home in terms of savings and tax deferrals. So this gets to be huge. And so again, we've got clients that have a whole lot of small properties. It's almost like Monopoly. You put all your properties together, and they can all be lumped together and applied that way by the competent tax professional, as well as the individuals that have one or maybe more of the higher end properties. And again, as my partner said, the tax consequences are extremely positive.
And I'm going to go off track for a moment and tell you that another thing that we are capable of doing is helping you define what type of an entity should own those properties that you are taking cost seg on, or any properties that you own for investment purposes. You want to put them in separate entities. Each property, I don't care if you have 25, you want 25 separate properties in order to save the possibility that if any one is sued, the rest of the properties are safe. And that's so important. That's why we set up sub S corporation, subchapter S corporation. That's why we set up limited liability companies, LLCs. And if you have that property out there, you could be in trouble. And I will tell you one story. I was a practicing CPA, and my first years were with a big international CPA firm. And the firm happened to be a general partner in a glass manufacturing company, the glass contracting firm. And I happened to have been the senior on the job. And at the end of the job every year, I would write notes up. And every year I said that you shouldn't be a general partner. You should be a limited partner to limit your liability. LLCs weren't out by or at that time. And it came to pass that this company got the job to put all of the glass outside of the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, and they couldn't finish the job, so they got sued, and they got sued for a lot of money. The the national administrative partner of the CPA firm that I was working for went from driving a Rolls Royce to a Toyota. And many of them, if not all, declared bankruptcy. And that's not what they want to do after spending all of their years building something up. So you got to be careful as to what kind of entity you're putting the property in, so that that tax savings is going to be yours and nobody else's.
Who was it? Doris Day that sung the song "I Went from Rags to Riches." No, no, and not to poke fun. And the other thing, hopefully, that if it was a Toyota, it was actually a Lexus. But anyway, uh, you know, but let's talk about it. You know, the studies vary, as do the asset types, and with each type of asset and what you paid for it, when you put it into service, what all you added to it, or what all you tore down to take away from it, all are ways that depreciation methods can be applied. And that's what sort of separates what we're able to do. We're not just a cost segregation study. We're truly a place where a building owner can recognize a lot of a tax deferral on their asset. And for example, owners of an office or warehouse, thinking of a 2020 purchase of a client did about a $3.3 million purchase on a property. 10% of it was office, 90% of the rest was the warehouse. Had a deduction of over $334,000. That made for a tax deferral. You're working on me, Sparky. I have a tax deferral of $123,000 plus an apartment. And again, these were bought in years where bonus depreciation was being applied at 180% respectively. Apartment, a 2020 purchase at 100% bonus. You know, in this case, it was just under $1 million, about $920,000. They had over $223,000 identified as deductions that could be reduced out. There was a tax savings of $82,000.
Like I said before, it absolutely blew my mind when I started to see these numbers. And then just think of any business. Think of a restaurant. A restaurant has the booths, has counters, has all sorts of things in the restaurant. And then you go into the kitchen and just about everything ends up being tangible personal property. And then you could take accelerated depreciation on it. You can also take bonus depreciation. And we keep waking up every day and wondering what's going to happen to bonus depreciation, because there was bipartisan support for a new law that would extend bonus depreciation at 100% through 2024 or 2025. And it passed in the House, but it hasn't made it in the Senate. And a lot of people are planning based on that passing. And I got to tell you, I can't see it not passing. But then again, everything that Congress does is a compromise. and you never know what you're going to end up getting. So I just keep my fingers crossed that we're going to get some of that benefit. And then CPAs all over the place should be working with their clients to file amended returns for the years that they took lower than 100% in bonus depreciation.
And you know, it just goes on. And again, we work in a way that really helps our clients identify what and how they can best proceed and move forward. We have briefly spoke about partial asset disposition election, and that's a situation where you have the ability to write off assets that are no longer in use. Renovations, remodels, replacements, abandoned in place. These are common items such as your doors, your roof, your HVAC, electrical. When those things get torn down, sometimes on a renovation, they still have
a book value
to them, life, and in many cases, those get thrown in the dumpster before they are able to allow that particular individual's LLC, whatever that business entity is, private owner, to take advantage of it. It had me thinking about, I was looking at my notes here, and I thought about a client that came across us, and they had a storage facility, and just to speak on the renovation tax savings here, first off, the original building was $500,000, about just under $600,000. They did $20,000 in demolition. Bonus on the new was based off of $18,000. This gave them a tax savings of about $585,000.
Whoa.
I,
Fred, what did you say before about asset disposition? You said that you gave it a title. And I got to tell you that having been a CPA for over 50 years, basically you write off the book value of whatever you destroy and throw away. Now somebody put a fancy title on it. It's just good accounting. And so many people don't do what's right. And therefore you tag it with the title and maybe people will look into it.
Well, again, and let's all think about when not too long ago, we were looking at property values and real estate that was a fraction of what it is today, and at that same time, the interest rates were in the double digits. I mean, these were all different things, and so you could apply that one to a purchase of a home you lived in. But let's talk about a business. So the fact of the matter, and as my partner said, when you start going back in time like that, the only way to make deals work were by having these different forms of creative financing and different other mechanisms that the seller could participate with the owner. And so then having good accounting in place were really the only ways to make these deals and these opportunities work out long term. So
Good.
No, I was only going to say I was trying to think of we touched a few different assets, and I was wondering if there were any questions or how we see what you might want to speak to on any of that, Paul.
Guys, questions?
I think what it comes down to is actually paying attention to the opportunities that you have to maximize the capital that's available to you in a given time period. That, by using these techniques that you're describing, as you pointed out, you can free up some capital for investment or reinvestment in the same property even. And although you will have to eventually pay taxes on it, the dollar value of those taxes is going to be less down the road than it is now. So that, I think, is something that a lot of people don't really consider, that they can create. Well, they can participate in a loop that's available to them, and it's a great opportunity. I think the knowledge you're sharing here can really benefit people.
And I get very upset at the CPAs that advertise that you won't have to pay capital gains on the transaction on a sale. You won't have to ever pay those taxes, and that's wrong. The best way to defer taxes is a Section 1031 exchange. That phrase is known worldwide almost. And the only way that you can stop, every time you do a Section 1031 exchange, you're reducing the basis, the cost of the assets on the company's books. So by doing that, you're getting less depreciation. And the only way to bring that depreciation back up is to have someone who owns the property pass away and give it to you, because then you get it at fair market value. So the property on the book value goes from very low because you've done a number of Section 1031 exchanges under the ownership of one person, all the way up to market value upon date of death. And as far as I see it, people, and I've seen this so many times, people go to attorneys and accountants who say that they're going to stop you from paying taxes. And what they do is they set up an elaborate scheme of legal entities that they say will not ever pay taxes, but the IRS comes in late and says, "Oh, you will," and and you end up paying a tremendous amount for legal fees. I had one fellow who I talked to tell me that he had some attorneys and accountants set up a system, and it cost him $120,000, and he wasn't going to save that much in taxes, and that's absurd.
I think, I think there are techniques that you can minimize your position over the years that you're operating, and I think there's ways you can pass that income, like in the case that Paul mentioned, when you pass away to your heirs. We've even seen clients that take. I know some that all they live off of is they have their assets, they have active and they have passive income, and they take their active income and they invest that into passive streams. There's a little trade-off. It's not that you don't pay any; they do, and they borrow their money. They borrow against their assets. And they don't pay any taxes on that. So I don't know the CPA feeling on that, but again, I think if you're saving and you're staying ahead of the game, then at the end of the day, isn't that what it's about?
Yeah, I think that last week I brought up the fact that I was out golfing in Santa Barbara, and I gave some income tax advice, just exactly what I told you here, to someone, and he bought lunch. It doesn't matter if you're a huge conglomerate or an individual. You got to go to a competent tax attorney and a tax CPA who knows their stuff, and also invest in real estate. It's really the best thing out there. Everybody now is into cryptocurrencies. I'm going to say fat instead of saying what I really think. And don't play with these things that are fads. Real estate has been around for so long, and the millionaires or billionaires that are around got there by investing in real estate. And don't look at Donald Trump. he did it wrong, and he lies about the values of his assets. And
come on. Don't go on. Please stop. That is so disingenuous. You have to insert your biased political opinions here. Come on, be nice.
Let's cut this out.
Yeah.
No, it's too late now.
Well,
anyway, I think cost segregation works almost everywhere where it's applied. I think people should understand how they can utilize those different techniques to add value and benefit their given position. We're able to help you in a lot of different ways. We have some things that we look at and underwrite on a regular basis, and at the end of the day, that asset is and the revenue therefrom is the heart of it is real estate. As my partner said, that is really the safe place and a good place to hedge your bets.
And it's long term, and it's not a 20-minute investment. You're going to have it. You're going to have it to pass on to your heirs. But don't only have real estate. You have to have an investment portfolio that has all sorts of different things in order to cover yourself. You don't want all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
And we will work with you on that, and maybe your investment advisor as well.
That's fabulous. So the invitation is to reach out to Fred and Paul, and the Paul's phone number is streaming across the bottom there, and his email address. I don't have Fred's on there, but if you go to lspropertypartnersllc.com or the Bible of Real Estate.info, you can get links to all of those things, and you're both available on LinkedIn. Can be tracked down there, and yeah.
Some
So
people may want to track me down after what I said, and I'm sorry.
yeah, well, yeah, there were, yeah, there's the Donald will send his boys after you now.
I couldn't help myself.
No, that's
The
okay.
only way to never offend anyone is to never say anything. So
Right.
Yeah, there we go. Anyway, any other last invitations or comments before we let everybody go off and enjoy their day?
Well, I found out that when you have a situation and you are a layman, that you're not even going to think of so many different things that you should. And you should talk to someone like Fred or me in order to bring up those other things and give you the option of making the decisions, because we won't make the decisions for you.
Yep.
We will make you an informed investor. So you make that informed decision.
Yes. And I think there's no better people than the two of you to get informed about
Thank you.
real estate investing and tax considerations. Yeah,
That's very kind of you, Greg. And again, we're talking to there's some folks around that they've invested in strip malls that they've owned since maybe even the 70s or beyond, and they just don't know how to take and re-image those. You see them all around. You have the apartments and the housing where neighborhoods are changing. The demographic is changing. Those folks that raise their kids now, they're at that senior retirement. Some are even passing on now, and their kids are coming in. The schools are good, but the surrounding strip malls don't represent what those buying patterns and interests are for this generation. And so we've been looking at re-imaging some of those stuff, a lot of different interesting things. Myself never have spoken much about, but my ex-wife and I were involved in the residential care facility arena for intellectually disabled. And there are just a lot of different opportunities for the right type of investor to get involved in those, and to see really nice cash flow as well too. And so, again, it's a good conversation to have, and maybe there's synergy, but I think at the very least there's good education to be had, and we love to share.
no, absolutely. And I think between the two of you, you've been involved with almost any kind of real estate deal that you can think of. At some point, you have some experience with it.
yeah, if you want experienced professionals, you're looking at them. So get in touch with these guys and talk to them about what's real in your financial and investment strategies, because they have knowledge that between the two of them, nobody else has. Promise.
And next week, we're going to talk about the 3 things that you invest in real estate for. You invest for cash flow, which we've been talking about. You invest for appreciation, and you invest for income tax benefits. And again, we've been talking about some of those. So we'll start with cash flow next week, and we'll continue with it for a couple of weeks afterwards.
That's fabulous. Okay, so that's the same time, 11 a.m. Pacific on Thursdays, and there'll be sure to follow Betty or any of us on LinkedIn so you can see the event that comes up and come join us.
And I wish we could serve coffee and donuts, but it's on the computer.
We need the virtual donuts across.
Donuts. Let's have some bagels and lox.
Well,
Where you
bagels,
talking?
and actually in here, Bonnie
Aren't you
helps
from
make,
New York?
yeah, we have Bannock here. There's a First Nations restaurant cafe, and Bonnie works on Sunday morning or Saturday mornings making Bannock. So that's why I'm probably going to wander over and get a Bannock and coffee right now.
There you
Oh,
go.
you got me going now, Fred. I'm going, where are the bagels? You know?
Yeah.
Well,
Donuts,
maybe that's
get
what
outta
we.
here.
Maybe it's a bring your own kind of thing. Every next Thursday, everybody should bring their own bagels
Bring
and
your own
donuts,
bagel.
Bannock, and your favorite drink.
Bring your
Whatever it
own
is.
back. Yeah.
We'll have our own. We'll have our own cost segregation party.
BYOB.
Yeah,
BYU.
bring your own bagels.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. All right. Do you have a political opinion about the difference between Montreal bagels and New York bagels?
There is nothing better than a New York bagel.
There we go. I heard somebody created a hybrid between the two. That's controversial.
I don't know that I've ever had a Montreal bagel. I do know that there is an excellent Jewish style deli in Montreal. I think it's called Schwartz's.
Yeah, Schwartz's. There are a couple of really big ones. Yeah, line up out the door. Yeah.
One of the best. I used to go up there a
time I
lot.
was in Montreal.
Yeah, and Dunn's also. Schwartz's and Dunn's. Yeah.
All right.
All right. Now that everybody's really hungry and it's lunchtime, let's go.
Right. Okay, then.
So bring your own bagel next week.
And we will
we'll have
talk
some,
and
we'll have
teach
some
you
fun with
about
real
real estate.
estate. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. See you later.
Take care. Thank you.